Welcome, everybody. This is PodTox. Again, Marie and I are just going to be doing our thing. And all right, so for this podcast, just for everyone's knowledge, we ended up cutting out a fair portion of the beginning of this podcast, and we're going to resume where we start talking about other things. There are very sensitive topics that we were talking about and will be talking about in the future that it was just framed in a weird light, so we want to change that narrative and do things a little different. So first off, using substances besides your DOC and recovery. That was the first thing we want to talk about. So I had a person, I think it was like 2 days ago, I made a video about how being on mat is sober, doesn't matter if you're using something else, yada yada. And this person talked all types of stuff about how it's all about willpower and you have to want it and all this stuff. And then they mentioned that they were opioid sober. So it made me wonder, are they using other things? And I understand that side of the conversation. Like I understand the willpower side and everything, but I think a lot of people don't get like there are so many factors to it, and we didn't understand this back in the day. There are so many factors to addiction. Sometimes people need that other thing, like they need a little bit of smoke or they need to take Xans because of depression or whatever. So it's not as black and white, and I think that information just doesn't get out there.
So I would really like to discuss this. So I have a very hard time sleeping at night. So I could fall asleep easy, but I do not stay asleep. My psychiatrist has tried so many meds. We've done Ambien, Lunesta, a medication for PTSD, clonidine, you name it, I've tried it. I try to play sounds. She just recently said, you know what, Marie? It's to the point where maybe you need to take a benzo. Maybe you need to take some Ativan at night. She's been my psychiatrist for 9 years, never offered me something like that. Ever, ever, ever. I was kind of shocked. My first thing that I told her is, I said, no, I don't want to take a benzo because I know myself. Give me a benzo. I'll be calling someone for benzos by the end of the week. I cannot do it. I can't.
But you've used like the accountability side of things with your doc for Suboxone. Could you do something like that with benzos?
Me personally, I'm such a sneak. When I get benzos, I get like an alter ego. My personality shifts. Like
Yeah.
I am not the same Marie anymore. And I will be ripping and running. Like I know myself that well. Hold on, I could take an opiate, no problem like that.
Okay.
But I can't do that with a benzo. Give me a benzo and it's like I feel the best it's like that feeling of like this is what's been missing in me. Like I need that. I know that I just don't have control. And I literally had to tell her no. And guess what she said to me? She said this, Marie, sometimes the risk outweighs the benefit. Like your body is going to deteriorate and your mental health is going to decline without sleep. I'm willing to take the chance to get you to sleep a little bit. And I still told her no.
So this is where this conversation gets really iffy too, because
Right.
you have to know yourself, and you obviously you cannot do it because it would end badly. But there are so many people on here too that talk about you can do it if you keep telling yourself that it's going to be a geez, I can't think it, fulfilling prophecy. And that's not always the case. It's not just because we think it's going to come into reality. It's literally the fact that we have done this stuff before. We've been there and tried it. And, like if I drink, I didn't have the best time with drinking, that would start becoming a thing. But it would also make me want to use opiates. And I know that about myself. But a bunch of people on here are saying, "Oh no, you should try these things and do all this stuff," which you can, but you have to be
Right.
really careful with that. And it just it's a very scary message, and a lot of times people saying this are harm reduction and all that, and there is a harm reduction side to it, but again, you have to know your place.
Now, I have taken benzos in my recovery. I've taken them successfully without ripping and running. So there was a time where I needed to get an MRI. I am so claustrophobic. There is no way that I'm getting in there without a benzo. Like, it is not happening. And I tried to, so I took it. I
Okay.
took it before I even drove there. As I'm driving in my car, I'm like, bitch, fuck that. I was about to say F the MRI and hop on the highway. Like, I was about to go, bro. Like, the feeling that I had in the car was like I was holding the steering wheel and everything was like, woo! I was feeling so good that it brought back that, like, damn, I know why I like this feeling. But I did not act on it.
Well, sure, because you have your coping skills, and it
Right.
was for a shorter amount of time. But I get what you're saying though, because if you had them continuously to help with the sleep, I mean, all it takes is one bad day,
Right.
and who
And
knows?
and I know myself, I would be like, well, tonight I'm going to take four instead of one. Like, that's just how I am, and I know myself. So, but like, I'm going to be having surgery soon, and now this is going to be a surgery. I'm off of medicated assisted treatment. The last time I had surgery, I was on Suboxone.
So you're gonna have to take the opiates. Well, if they
Well,
even give you any.
well, I am planning on going on Suboxone probably for
Really?
like I've already talked to my doctor going on Suboxone for maybe like a week and just using that for pain and then just cutting off.
What if the subs don't help with the pain?
I've already had this surgery twice before and I was on Suboxone. So I just, I mean, they might not help, but I've had a tummy tuck on subs. It helped. I
Right.
took it in a way that it did help.
Why subs for a week instead of something shorter acting?
I mean, I could. I just wanted to take something because I don't want to have that like, oh my God, I want to keep taking it craving. Like the subs would make it so that it
You
managed
could.
my pain without those thoughts.
Do
Because
you,
I get those obsessive thoughts sometimes. I'll be like, you know what? All right, I can't, you know, how, like if you pop a perk or something and then you get that feeling, and it's like that warm and fuzzy feeling.
it's like,
I
oh,
don't want to
okay.
feel that warm and fuzzy feeling. I
I
don't.
feel you. It's been so
Like,
long since I've
dude,
done it.
that's the feeling I got when I took that Xanax. I'm telling you, I was holding the steering wheel and I'm like, baby, I was about to hop on the highway. I would have been off and running.
What are the other options for the sleep though?
So I don't know. And somebody asked me about Seroquel in here. Somebody was saying, have you?
I saw
I
that.
am very bad when it comes to taking medication because I have such bad body dysmorphia that if a medication says it's going to make you gain weight, I absolutely don't care what it's going to do up here. I'm not taking it. It's not happening.
Are you like working on that in therapy?
Yeah, I've been in therapy for years,
I
Kyle.
know, I know. It just why but so okay, so let me ask you this. With all the stuff that you've had, because obviously you've done your work and got some like plastic surgery and everything, because you did have those like insecurities about your body. Like now that those have kind of gone astray, does it make you feel like maybe you didn't need to do some of that?
So no, so all the stuff that I've had done has not made me feel any better about myself. I the problem is up here.
Right.
It's that I never had any confidence or self-esteem. Every relationship I've ever been in has been shit. That's just how I feel. Like always constantly getting cheated on. Those things will fuck with someone. They really truly do. I never felt good enough. I never felt good enough.
So you just need a good man. That's what you need. You need a man that's gonna actually like take care of you and treat you right. You know what
Well,
you need to do? Stop. Don't go to the trap and hang out, and don't go to the club. All that stuff. Go to like a Starbucks and find find some nerdy dude. You'll
It's
be fine.
hard though, but it's like, but you don't realize which when a woman constantly gets cheated on or stuff like that, it really messes with your mental health in your head.
Oh
Like
yeah.
I look at myself and I'm always comparing to something different. Like I'm always beating myself up mentally and internally. Like I'll look in the mirror and then I'll starve myself and then like it's like vicious cycles for me.
And I get that. I mean, I've been cheated on, and it's the same way for dudes. I mean, it's just a very weird feeling. And the hard part is you're probably not going to trust anybody else you're with to some extent, but
Right.
like that very next person could be the one, but it's not going to matter because of all that happening.
And then this is the way I look at it also. It's like I got four kids. Like my kids, even my best friend, they're never going to allow me to talk to anyone. It's going to be so hard for me to even like that's what I want to know. Like how do you even put yourself back out there if you've been with somebody for years? Like I don't think that I could do that.
Well, and even if you haven't been with somebody, because I guess, yeah, there are two sides of it, but even if you haven't been with somebody, it, whenever you first get sober, you can't handle all that emotion, the good and the bad. Like you fall head over heels for somebody too quick because you're still learning. And if something goes wrong, it's the end of the world, then you just go back to using. Like I don't know anyone that's made it through a breakup, like freshly in recovery and not used. Cause that's number one. Even a fight. If me and Shan got in a fight early on in recovery, that was one of the reasons that I would go use half the time because we were
Right.
fighting and I had to have that so I could I could
Fight.
make things
You
better.
had to have it so you could fight.
Yeah, yeah. Because if I didn't have it, it would be a total mess.
Right.
So I feel like that side, you have to give it time until you're stable and you have, your stuff figured out. And once you have your stuff figured out, like let's say, you're 6 months into recovery and you have a place to live, you have a job that's going good, everything is going okay, and you meet somebody. All right, cool. You can talk to them, you can start things out slow. It doesn't have to be the first night you're, in bed doing your thing. It can be, let's have some coffee, we'll try this out for a couple weeks, maybe go to a movie, stuff like that. Take it slow and make sure it's what you want, and make sure that that person is going to add to your life as a beneficial person. And
Yeah, if they have nothing to bring to the table, don't even
yeah,
bother.
yeah, because in recovery, it is all about improving you. If that person is not going to help improve you, then they aren't part of your recovery.
And
And
it took me a while into my recovery it took me like 5, 6, 7 years into my recovery to start to realize my worth a little bit. Like that
yep.
there's certain things that I will put up with, and there's certain things that guess what? Not today. You do that shit today, you're gone. Done.
How were things whenever you got in recovery with Joe? Like whenever you first got sober, was there anything different right away, or like?
Yes. So when I first got into recovery, um, I I started to continue to grow, and I feel like he started to see that I was able to stand on my own 2 feet for once, and then he just took a step back and just like took a seat and let me take over. So the roles actually completely shifted and reversed. Like I was the man in the relationship. I
Right.
became the one to do everything. That's what happened.
That, huh? No, okay. And that was whenever you got on subs, right?
So I was on subs. I went to the program that I was in. Really, I was on subs and I was doing the right thing throughout my pregnancy. I ended up in jail because I violated probation for not having an address.
Right.
When they violated me, I had 10 years hanging over my head for prescription fraud. So instead of doing that 10 years, because I would have given birth in jail, I went to a program.
Okay.
Because my daughter just turned 8, I would still have 2 more years in jail to do right now.
Oh yeah, no,
Right.
no, no,
Like
no.
I was facing some serious shit.
And I guess, I guess early on when I got on subs too, it's weird because I felt like I was gung ho early on. Whenever I got on them, I was ready to go. Everything was all cool, and I felt like I was contributing a lot. And then slowly over time, I feel like I kind of lost that too.
You
Like,
lost your motivation almost.
yeah. So do you feel like that happened to you at all before you got off?
So I feel like I really am pro medicated assisted treatment in every
Sure.
which way because I feel like there's no way that I could have done it without medicated assist. Like there is no way. I have tried so many times and failed that once I got the right medicated assisted treatment though, because I'm going to tell you this, methadone was not for me personally. I abused the shit out of methadone. I loved it.
I think methadone would have been better for me. The going to the clinic every day probably would have, like, that
That
would have been the
sucked.
thing that
That's
screwed
what needs
me.
to change. They
Yeah.
really need to change that. If people that are using Suboxone can take it at home, I feel like people using methadone should be
And
able to.
the only reason they do that is because, again, the whole overdose thing, you can
Right.
overdose from methadone.
I've overdosed on methadone multiple times. Multiple times.
But if you aren't abusing it, which they should be making sure people aren't abusing it, it's not going to happen. And that is another example of the government thinking that like the prescription meds are the problem when they're not. It's all
Right.
the other stuff. So I feel like that's a big thing. But they're gonna make it so you can get take homes easier, right? I still need to look into all that.
So no, there's really nothing that great about it. So when Dr. Alfre Stitch did that video, I duetted it. I
Yeah.
looked a little bit more into it. I even talked to my doctors at the clinic, and basically nothing really changed. You can start methadone, which means initiate the first evaluation via telemed now. Then they send you to the clinic to get the meds. You still have to go to the clinic, so you can initiate it, and like they'll tell you like what milligrams are going to put you on, and they initiate it over the phone, but you still have to go to the clinic. So it makes literally no sense, and nothing changed.
What they fucking do?
So yes, but they still got to send you to the clinic to get dosed. So it literally doesn't make. So basically, for people, you still got to go there anyway. So you might as well just do your initial evaluation there. That's how I look at it. If you got to go there anyway, you're going there anyway.
I guess the one benefit, because I remember back in the day, oh, this is something I never told anybody. So back in the day, whenever I was really struggling, whenever Carson was pretty young, um, I had been just blowing through all my money, and I was like, I have to change something. And I remembered being on methadone, and my buddy T Shop, I remembered why he was going there and like was steadily doing okay whenever he was on methadone. I was like, I need to get on this stuff because it will help me do something stable and I can
Right.
figure things out. And so I went to a methadone clinic, and I went to the same one that I always took him to, and I went in there and I was on like day 2 of withdrawal, and I was just miserable. And I went up to the counter, and the person that turned around ended up being one of my good friends that I used to work with that I hadn't seen for a long time. And she was just like, Kyle, what are you doing here? And I was like, well, I'm struggling really bad. And like, I told her everything that was going on. And she was like, well, we can't get you in for 6 days. And I was like, 6 days, I might as well just go through the withdrawal and be done with it. And I ended up, I got some like 3 or 4 days later. It was like a dry spell, but it was just like, if they would have got me in sooner, I would have been good. But
Now,
they,
see, that's the shame of it. I feel like they know that people, it's life and death. Like if that person walks out the door and goes and does what they got to do, you know what I'm saying? You don't. it's not guaranteed that they're going to ever come back into that clinic again. Like
Yeah.
once you have, in my opinion, once you have the person that's willing and ready and standing there, you got to seize that opportunity right then and there.
Yeah.
They should have done it.
And I feel like it was probably super hard for her because like we still stayed in touch kind of and hung out. Actually, whenever I worked for like the grocery store, that's where we worked together, and like we hung out literally every single day all the time. Her mom was like my mom, like
Gotcha.
that's how close we were. So like obviously she can't tell anyone what's going on, but I know she wanted to. I almost wouldn't even been mad if she had. But like she messaged me afterwards on Facebook and was like, "What do you need? Like can I help you in any way?" And I didn't even respond because I was going through it. I didn't want to talk to anybody. But
Right.
it just I don't know, man. It was such a weird situation, and I never went back, and I think that's why, because I didn't want to let her down and let her know I was still struggling. And then once I got sober, she was actually one of the first people I like called and was like, "Hey, I'm good now." And I treat her house now, like doing pest control and everything. So yeah.
It's it's hard because I feel like once they have that patient standing there and they're like there and willing, you got to take that opportunity and guide them in the right direction because that person might not ever come back through that door again. They might go out there and take their last breath that day. And that's why it's so important to seize the moment.
You know how it is though, whenever you're in that moment and you're in withdrawal, it like you'll tell yourself, I want to quit. I'm never doing it again. I'm gonna force myself to go through it once you can't find anything, of course.
Right.
But you have all this strength and you're like, I just gotta suffer through this for a little bit, and then you get some and it's like nothing happened. Like you might as well have not even gone through it because you just forget it in a heartbeat to get that high. And it's I don't know, that it sucks. But
It's that desperation. It's that feeling of like, I need to fix this now. Like, I can't feel like this anymore. I'm done. I'm done feeling these feelings and feeling shitty and sick all the time.
I gotta pee real quick, and then you want to talk about money?
Sure. So, one of the topics that we wanted to discuss today was like rebuilding your credit while you're in recovery. So, I know at the beginning of my recovery journey, my credit score was like non existent. When I tell you non existent, it was non existent. It was like in the low 500s. So one of the things that I did was I started to get a few prepaid cards. And at the time I was like on welfare, like making like having no money a month, but I took that money and I invested it into my credit and I got myself like a $200 prepaid card. And I started to put different things on the card. Like I put like Amazon on the card and let it revolve every month. By doing that, I started to build my credit and I paid attention because I got the Credit Karma app. That's an excellent app to have if you want to try to monitor your credit and see what's going on. So I got the prepaid card and I started putting like a few little revolving payments on it, nothing crazy. But I took my credit score from like a 524 and today it's a 747. So like I continue to just evolve off of that little investment that I made in myself. And guess what? The credit card company gave me back that money after I proved to them that I was worthy of making those payments.
I feel like it's weird whenever you first get sober too, because like, especially if you have a job, it's you almost don't know what to do with all the money because especially like you usually still you're so used to living with the bare minimum that you aren't really like paying for some crazy house or anything. So you just save your money and you don't spend anything. It's like, oh, I have $5,000 just chilling
When
here.
I was first in recovery, I was leaving the halfway house. I'm not going to lie. I literally left there. I was getting custody back of my daughter.
Sure.
So she was coming to live with me. And I had a baby at the time. I was living off of 371 a month, paying all my bills with 371 a month, diapers. Obviously, I got the formula from like WIC, but like
Sure.
there was times where I had to buy formula still. Like that formula wasn't enough, or like
Yeah.
the baby didn't do well with that formula, so I had to switch it. I don't know how I did it, but I did it. I had subsidized housing at the time, so it was based off of my income, but I
Right.
still was able to save money living off of 371 a month. I literally made sure that I rebuilt my credit because credit is so important to have.
Yeah, and it's something that I think maybe a lot of people don't know how to do that stuff in the first place whenever get sober and everything's good, because especially if they've been using since they were young, it
Right.
doesn't matter. No one taught them how to do that, and they don't even teach that stuff in schools anymore. So it's just, yeah, it's something that if you can make happen, like paying off all your debts and everything, that is something whenever you get sober and you are starting to hit a point where you're in a stable place, start looking at your debts, see what you need to pay off because
Like one of the things that I looked into, and it took me till I was 5 years clean and sober, but
Mhm.
I owed over 10 grand to get my license back. I started chipping away at it, chipping away at it, chipping away at it. The second I had money, I called up every court and paid off every single fine that I owed. Do you
Yep.
know what a rewarding feeling that was to
Oh,
call up the courts and be like, today I can give you $1,000 to pay that off. Hey, today I'm responsible.
it was just nice being able, of course I didn't want to pay it because I was getting screwed over, but it was nice being able to pay my child support and not have to worry
Right.
about going to jail.
Yeah. And knowing that, like, you're doing it and it's coming out of your check every month and you're still surviving and
Oh
you're
yeah.
doing what you got to do. Like, I was so nervous. So when I had this town that hated me, I always got caught stealing in this particular town in Jersey. I was always rocked on Zanny bars, going to the stores and stealing. Well, this one town hated me. It was like my third offense in front of the same judge for stealing. She
Okay.
already gave me weekend jail. I effed that up, the weekend jail. So I ended up catching another charge while I was in weekend jail for stealing. Okay. It was the bars. The bars had my mind all effed up.
Yeah.
So I ended up getting caught again. It was my fourth shoplifting offense. I had a baby. She was like, nope, you're going to jail. She put me in jail. I couldn't believe it. Literally, I went to jail. I did weekend jail. I still owed jail time to this judge. 5 years into my recovery, I called up. The court clerk remembered my name because every time, like, they remembered me. This judge hated me. I wrote her a letter. I had my caseworker that was working with me. I had my therapist write a letter. I had DCF letters. I put it all in a portfolio and I mailed it to her. And I said, please, I'm responsible for my children today. Like, if I can't even get a driver's license because I still owe this jail time to you, and I don't even live in the state of New Jersey. You know what she did? She waived it. She waived it. She seen all the letters and proof that I was doing the right thing. All my drug screens were stacked,
That's all they want to know half the time is that you aren't
right?
going to go do it
And guess what?
again.
She sent me a letter back telling me, you know what? I'm proud of you and you no longer owe the jail time. And guess what? That's what cleared me to be able to get my driver's license. Without that, and the other thing that I had up against me, I had a few blocks to get my driver's license back. I was mistakenly diagnosed with epilepsy years ago because
Oh,
when I was coming off the benzos, I would have seizures all the
yep,
time. I
yep.
was constantly in the hospital for seizures, constantly. And I would always, to the point where the emergency room doctor came to me and she said, Marie, you have had so many seizures. By law, we have to pull your driver's license. So they took my driver's license from me for a medical reason.
How many seizures do you have to hit that point?
Kyle, I was having seizures. Like I would end up in the emergency room, blacked out, staples in my head, splitting my head open. Like I was taking tramadol and I was seizing out on the tramadol. Like I was popping it when I would be in withdrawal and I couldn't get anything. I would take tramadol
And
and I
just
would take it to the point of literally like blacking out in season. And the doctors, they told me, like, you are a risk. You are a risk to be behind the wheel. So they literally pulled my license. And do you know how hard it is once you get your license taken for a medical reason to get that cleared?
Yep.
I had to have so much documentation. So I had to be seizure free for, I think it was over 2 years to even look at getting my license back.
I didn't know that.
Yeah.
That's interesting. Huh.
Yeah.
Well,
so it was a lot. So, but those blocks never stopped me from being like, nope, I'm getting it. I'm getting it. I'm getting my license back.
And that's the problem I think a lot of people run into is like you start hitting those road bumps and
Right.
your first
You feel overwhelmed. Like
Yeah.
I get very overstimulated. Or like say they want paperwork filled out for the court. I'm like this all the time because I have a hard time like with, you know what a rewarding feeling it is not to get court papers in the mail every week.
I do. It's great.
Right? Bro, I used to get them. They would be flowing. And I'd be like, have you ever gotten in so much trouble that like you even fucking forgot what you got in trouble for?
Yeah.
You know how many?
Done
Dude,
that.
I'd read the police reports. They'd be like, Miss Principato. And it would be the dumbest shit that I would steal from stores. It would be the dumbest shit. And I would be like, damn, Marie, like you couldn't have went for something better. Like you look like an embarrassment on the police report.
Well, I would do the same thing even like really early on in recovery. I can't tell you how many times I went and took like candy bars or some crap at the gas station, and it's like I could have got caught at any time, and you know it's not that.
You just don't care. You just don't care. I could remember just not giving an F. Like I just, you know what? I felt invincible, especially on benzos. Listen, benzos, I'll carry couches out over my shoulder and wave to you. Bye.
You just don't care. You don't care about anything on them.
Oh, I used to go through like stores like Home Depot and Lowe's and pick out like real expensive items and bring them back up to the counter and return them.
Oh, that's a racket too. You can't do that.
Dude, they would give me the gift cards. There was one time where I was in the middle of selling one of the gift cards. It was a $500 gift card. And the place was verifying that the gift card was legit. And in the middle of that, the store must have caught me and they canceled the gift card.
That's rough. They could have at least waited till you got the money for it.
I'm like, damn. Yeah, I know. The things that I have done. But you know what?
No.
I would never want to take from like someone personally, but like a company, I didn't care.
That's how I was. I've never understood the people that like break into people's cars or because I had my house broken into. I know how it feels.
Did you ever catch who broke into your house? Was it someone that you knew that you were effing with? Like,
I'm pretty sure I know who it was.
That's my first thought. Like somebody wanted to get you.
Yeah, it was never confirmed, but I have a very strong feeling of who it was.
Think about the things that like we've allowed to happen, like, and that we've put up with, because I know today I think completely different than I used to think. Like I wouldn't take like if I wouldn't take a candy bar. I wouldn't pick a penny up in a store. Like I don't do it. But years ago, I would have taken the whole store. I wouldn't have given a fuck.
Carson's walked out of I think it was Walmart with one of those little Kinder eggs, and I didn't realize it because she picked it up and she ran it across the self checkout, and she was
listen, you're overstimulated. You got a kid. You ain't paying attention.
Well, and she was very little, so she didn't even ask. She said, "Oh, I want this." So she grabbed it, and she saw me ringing everything up, so she went and rang it up, but she didn't get it. And she walked out with it, and I was just like, when we got in the car, she was like, "Can you open this?" And I was just like, where the hell did this come from?
Right.
So I looked at the receipt. I was like, no, not on there. Okay, cool. Well, I went back in and paid for it. Like, what?
That's how I am. I'm the same exact way. That I've had situations like that happen with my kids as well. And
Like,
I
that's
just want,
normal.
like, I am so petrified of them being like, "Oh my God, one of your kids walked out with something." Like, I, because of my past, I get in trouble. Dude, I've been in those offices in the back a million and one times. Every time they get you in the office, you're
You
like
know,
you're
you
looking
see
for a
the
way out. There ain't no way out.
the
And then I'm in the back offices like begging, please, 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 you can have the stuff back. Don't call the cops on me this time, please, please. And then they're like, hold on, let me go. And the cop walks in, and you're like,
yeah, yeah, yeah.
right.
They don't care. They've heard it
Oh
all.
my God. I just wanted to say thank you for those that came to hang out with us today to show us some love and support. We see you guys and we appreciate you.